Welcome back. You know, in the past few years, a trend that began with jokes about a way for women to cope with overwhelming challenges of motherhood has become nothing to really laugh at. We're talking about a culture that people are coining the mommy whine culture. This is probably not the first time you've heard this. This is something that really is eternally an issue that I think has been going on for quite a while, not just the last few years, but developmental psychologist Dr. Marti Erickson is here. She has a podcast about it this week. Of course, her podcast with her daughter is called Mom Enough. She's nice enough to come on in and talk about a lot of really interesting parenting things. And you know what? The sad truth is this does have a lot to do with the parenting and how difficult it is to parent. Not that it wasn't difficult before, but this is how a lot of women are coping, right?
Absolutely. And you know, we really do a lousy job as a society of supporting and really recognizing the work that mothers do. Fathers as well, and fathers are so much more involved these days. That's great, but still so much of the burden falls on moms. And so they do feel a lot of stress. That's well documented. You know, childcare, parental leave, just really making sure there's equal pay for women for equal work, and you know, all sorts of things that really reflect our lack of true support, even though we kind of glorify motherhood in words and greeting cards and things, but we don't really support the work of parenting.
And I would argue that moms are the toughest on other moms, and I think that moms try to make sure that they're doing the right things based on what they're hearing other moms are doing, and that is part of the huge pressure.
Oh, it is, and social media just, you know, feeds into that. We've talked about that a lot before, but it just doesn't go away.
It doesn't.
And I really
Let's run through these things, and then we'll keep talking
Sure.
about it. So here are just a few things that you lay out in this podcast, things to kind of think about. Avoid laying blame for your stress on your children.
Yeah.
Avoid suggesting alcohol is a solution for stress. You know, grab it at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Model and name healthy ways to deal with stress. Advocate for better supports for parents. Support each other. Support the other moms out there. And seek help if you really think that you may be misusing alcohol, or maybe one of your dear friends is.
Yes.
And you know her enough that you can help her.
Yeah, and talk about this together. There are support groups online for people who are sober curious, you know, moms who are realizing that this is really becoming a pattern and it could signify a very serious problem. So lots of places to get help and do that if you have any doubts about your use of alcohol.
What I've been seeing a lot of things, and they show up on your feed, and you know, the algorithm for that is strange. But I noticed that there's a bunch of new social media things, and because of my job, I have to look at social media all the time. I don't really want to, and but I've noticed that there's women on there that are saying, last year at this event, I don't remember being there because I was drunk. And now I'm at this event and I don't drink anymore. And I can't believe I did that. And I feel so much better. And they're comparing moments in their lives, and now they're sober and they weren't. And I've noticed a lot more of those coming into everyone's feed, I imagine, mine as well.
Yes, and the author, who's our guest on our podcast this week, wrote a book called It's Not About the Wine, and it really addresses all of these issues we're talking about, but that's one of the things. Her own story really highlights just how much better she feels now that she's stopped this pattern, but she describes in graphic detail how it was affecting her life.
And you know, I mean, Chris did this, and a lot of people do this. They do that dry January, and if you do like a 30-day something like that, and you feel better, like, huh, that's interesting. You know, maybe
wake up without that brain fog. And exactly.
Absolutely. Well, such a really interesting topic.
Yeah.
So this book is called "It's Not About the Wine." Celeste
Yvonne is her name.
And she'll be on your podcast.
Yes. And can I just say one other thing about the first point about not blaming children for your drinking?
Yes.
Because there are marketers that are, you know, producing T-shirts and even onesies that say, "I'm the reason my mommy drinks," or "My child whines and I whine." You know, and so there's a whole business enterprise out there, not just marketing the alcohol itself, but that really warrants emphasis.
Yeah, my goodness, for sure.
Yeah, what a message to our kids, you know. Just think about the impact of that on a child hearing, "I'm the reason my mommy drinks." That's tragic.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's very serious.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to understand there's something about that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. We're going to let everyone
Thank
know,
you.
of course, this week's podcast, the Mom Enough podcast, is about this with this guest. And there are new podcasts that drop every Monday. We think it might have dropped today, though. So check it out.
Yeah, I asked that it be posted early
Good,
so people
good.
could go there.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Coming up next, a quick